All right, moving on to the next one. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or better known as ADHD. So this is also a neurodevelopmental disorder. So again, related to the brain and development, characterized by either unusual inattentiveness, that's where attention comes in, hyperactivity, with impulsivity, or both. So this is one of those kind of recipes where it's like an either or approach. So you might have unusual inattentiveness, or you might have unusual hyperactivity and impulsivity, or you might have both, and it all counts as ADHD. So so this is really similar to autism spectrum disorder, given that it is a developmental disorder. So what that means is that these disorders will typically present themselves in early childhood. So you'll start to see them in younger kids, and they might persist into adulthood. Yeah, that's one reason it's also kind of hard to diagnose and find the symptoms of these disorders is because it's often difficult to distinguish these disorders in young children, because we know children are excited and don't always have the greatest attention span anyway. So let's go into actually how they classify this. So by inattention, we're talking about an inability to focus your attention on a task for an age-appropriate length of time. So we're comparing yourself to maybe what average peers of your age group can do, because again, children have low attention spans. So focusing on a task for less than an average child your age. Hyperactivity, hyper means like higher or more than. So it's a high level of motor activity, being the word activity. So this might be children have difficulty engaging in structured activities like waiting in line or sitting quietly in a class. And then combine that with impulsivity, so acting without thinking. So not thinking through the consequences of an action, you just do it anyway. And this is also pretty prevalent as well. So I believe this is stats from 2011, but about 11% of children between the ages of 4 and 17 had or were diagnosed with ADHD. And there was an increase. So in that 8 years from 2003 to 2011, there was a 42% increase. And I want to point out the things about stats real quick, side tangent. This does not mean that the percentage went up by a raw 42 points. Everything is so misleading when you talk about like percentages and things. This just means that from whatever the percentage was in 2003, 42% of that number gets added to that score. So for instance, maybe an easier math to think about. Let's say there was a 2% chance that you might have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in 2003, and it went up by 50%. That's not a 52% chance now. That's a 3% chance now, because 50% of 2 is 1. Okay, brief math lesson, but don't be fooled by statistics. Anyway, side tangent. Other thing though, again, it's more prevalent in males than it is in females. So kind of interesting why it might have increased since 2003. It could be a lot of kind of social policy where schools are being pressured to have all students reach certain benchmarks, and you got to keep testing them and keep focused and keep advancing them, and they're only cut a break if they're diagnosed with a developmental issue, for instance. So this is what ADHD tends to look like. But again, it's hard to understand things via words. So we're going to look at what this looks like in action. So again, I'm going to put this video down below and see if you can pick out some of those symptoms.